Hello everyone and welcome back guys to round 2 of season 3 of our F1 2020 My Team career mode, where today we're here back ready for the Bahrain Grand Prix. Now obviously if you missed out on the season opener from the Australian Grand Prix that went live Sunday, I would definitely recommend going back and checking that video out. But heading into Bahrain this weekend, yeah, avoiding spoilers in 3, 2, 1 now. Australia wasn't the best result for us. It was a bit of a bumpy ride. We did get used to the car. Qualifying pace was there or thereabouts, but the race kind of just never really went our way. Struggled with pace and consistency all day long. So unfortunately, it was only P4 at the end of the first race of the season after George Russell absolutely dominated the weekend. But heading into Bahrain, though, hopefully a track that suits us just a little bit more. I'm trying to have a bit of a look, see if we can get any more upgrades on the car. I think we're going to need a few more R&D points before any performance upgrade is possible. We could go for something durability-wise, but I don't really want to at the moment. So, the best way to earn some R&D points is by heading into practice. Coming into free practice, though, I'll be honest, the car's biggest weakness after Australia and heading into this weekend almost actually feels like the brakes, in all honesty. I don't know where it's just that fast down the straights, as you can already see on the Delta, compared to all the other cars that were just having to brake earlier than I would expect to. But yeah, really just seem to be struggling mainly with actually getting the car slowed down into the corners. It, yeah, seems to have to brake a little bit earlier than we needed to last season. Anyway, coming to the end of our free practice then, we should be able to get the green score on the qualifying sim run. There we go. Target objective third complete. That's exactly what we needed. Let's see, then get back to the garage and try and get another upgrade. So, back at the factory then, 2,389 R&D points surely means we can get an upgrade basically anywhere we want one. I want to see if we've got the potential. I think those are the last brake upgrades we could get on the car. We could go with suspension geometry, master cylinder, hydraulics, or a front nose cone structure upgrade. I'm probably going to go with the hydraulics, I'll be honest. That is 1,950 points. We could get it rushed before Vietnam, but we'll just go with standard. What's the failure chance? 45%? I don't mind those odds too much. We're actually going to try... No, we'll just standard it. There's no real point in wasting R&D if we lose it. We've got such a quick car at the moment. So that's 18 out of 23 upgrades. That'll leave us just 4 to go on that department. We've only got 2 left on the engine. I should probably try and get those ones done as soon as possible, and then 3 left on the aero as well. So the car is almost maxed out, excluding durability. Let's dive into qualifying. Here we are then heading into the Bahrain Grand Prix qualifying session. I have actually tried to address the brake issue. I've upped the pressure slightly, but also moved the brake bias back a fair bit as well here. So hopefully we won't have so much locking up, but we can also be a little bit braver on the brakes. This is, however, Q1, so we should be able to comfortably get through. Coming to the end of our Q1 run then, it's going to be a 124.2, slower actually than Charles Leclerc, but we still should be safe. Heading out into Q2 then, I am trying to think about the long game this weekend and the race strategy. Normally, Bahrain is a medium-hard Grand Prix, so I'm going to try and go out, set a banker lap on a set of these soft compounded tyres with standard fuel, and then see if we can try and go quicker on a set of the mediums and hopefully set us up for a better race strategy. We have, well, we should have the car to get through into Q3 like that, but Ferrari and Mercedes, if Q1's anything to go by, seem to be on the money this weekend. Down in towards the final couple of corners then, we're going to need about the same time as we did in Q1 if we want to get through into Q3 here, but out of the final turn it's only going to be a 125.2. Doesn't give us a particularly good benchmark, but we are still quicker than George, rather surprisingly, unless he hasn't finished his lap. Heading on to our medium run then, it appears that, yeah, George Russell hasn't been able to make these tyres work and is still sat down in P16 here. We need to find about another half a second over our previous lap if we want to be able to get through into Q3 on this set of rubber. We should be a lot quicker down the straights, obviously, with the maximum fuel, but it's just a case of whether we'll still be able to go as quick through the corners. Definitely don't have as much grip and confidence on these tyres, but we need to try and make this work. Otherwise, we're going to have to really hurry up and try and get out again on another set of softs, which won't set us up very well for Q3 either. So we have got to be a bit careful here. We've taken quite a gamble. Let's just see. Coming down in through Sector 3 then, we can see we're still about 3.5 tenths up at the moment as we head in towards the final couple of corners of the lap, pushing the limits just a little bit there. As we head down in towards the final corner, we're still only about 3 tenths up at the moment. So this isn't looking particularly good for us. Out of the final corner, we don't get a particularly good run there either. It's going to be about a 3/10 improvement. It is going to be a 24.9, but that's only good enough for P12. We need to get back to the pits and get out on another run. Coming into the final corner then, ready to set ourselves up for our final lap. We're barely, if at all, going to have any time left on the clock to make this happen here. 3, 2, we start our lap with just 2 seconds to go, so we're really going to have to try and nail this if we want to get through into Q3. It's now turned into just one shot. We took a gamble on the tyres. It hasn't paid off. George Russell, a 23.2, so he is through safely in the end. We need just a couple more tenths, which should be possible on a much quicker set of tyres, but unfortunately, yeah, it just means our race strategy is probably going to be a bit compromised here. Through the first couple of corners, fairly tidy. We don't obviously need to take too many risks, but we do need to try and be quick on this lap. Obviously, we have got a car capable of Q3, so we should be getting there. But yeah, just don't obviously want to bin it either and still end up out in Q2. Trying to get the car slowed down through turn 9. Get a nice run on the exit though, so we are about 4 tenths up at the moment. I haven't quite got the pace, it feels like, to match the top runners at the moment, but George, yeah, really has put in an absolutely supreme lap towards the end of Q2 here. About 6 tenths up now, so we are slowly but surely finding a little bit more time. That's not been a good run through there, getting caught out over the curbing. Going to get another warning for track limits through there, but one more turn to go then. We should be safely through into Q3 as long as we don't mess this up. Just try and clip the apex as best as possible. Back into 4th gear, roll it to the finish line. It's going to be an 8/10 improvement near enough. So it is going to be a 24.1. That should be good enough to get us through into Q3. P12, P7. That's fine. We can take that. Really have struggled with pace so far this weekend in comparison to George Russell. But yeah, P7 in the end. Slower than the Red Bulls, slower than the Ferraris, and Danny Kvyat and the AlphaTauri having a good job done there. But only a 10th off 3rd place, so we'll take that. Hamilton and Bottas only just scraping through as well there. So it really has been quite a weird and wonderful little qualifying session in the end. But we're only going to get one shot in Q3. We need to be down in at least sort of the high 23s. But George on a 23.3, that is incredible pace. Here we go then, ready for our one and only Q3 run. George Russell still setting the pace on a low 23. We've got a few more cars around sort of the 23.7s, the 23.8s. That's probably where we should be aiming for in this qualifying session. Like I said, we only get one shot of this, so we're going to have to absolutely aim to nail it. Down in towards turn 1, trying to be a bit braver on the brakes, roll it through the first couple of corners. Once you get through that apex of turn 2, then you can put your foot to the floor. Really struggle for traction through that first corner. Brake just at 100. Oh, a big lock up there though. Hasn't helped us out as we make a bit of a mistake on the exit as well. In through the S's. Just try and keep it nice and tidy. Try to avoid that outside curb on the exit, and then you've got to brake a little bit earlier than you think in towards the hairpin there. Good traction on the exit, however, this time round. It's so far not been the best lap in the world, but not been the worst. Get it slowed down through turn 9. Short shift on the way back out. A little bit of wheel spin still nonetheless, but getting the power down as we head in towards sector 3. Brake just at that blue marker. Just struggled to get the car turned in as well as on. Like Bottas on a 23.2. Really showing George Russell what the Mercedes is capable of this weekend. Then actually clipping the apex there for I think the first time this weekend and not track extending on the exit. We need this to be a high 23 if we want to be anywhere near on the pace. One more corner to go. Big chunk of wheel spin as we wallop the curb there. George at 22.9. That is ridiculous. We set a 23.8. Way off where we wanted to be there in the end, and it's only going to be P7 on the grid for the Bahrain Grand Prix. We've always struggled for one lap pace around this track. And once again, it has exposed us.
Our top three today: Russell, Bottas, and Lewis Hamilton. Well, that wraps up qualifying, but don't worry, we'll be back tomorrow as we head into the Grand Prix.
So really then, we probably could have been looking at about P4 when qualifying was all said and done there. But George on a 1:22.9, that is just ridiculous pace coming from our teammate there. Bottas and Hamilton second and third, the Ferraris fourth and fifth. Danny Kvyat, we've got out-qualified by an AlphaTauri. That just goes to show how much we're struggling this weekend. Both Red Bulls, though, in 8th and 9th. We were a little bit clear of those guys, and then Carlos Sainz rounding out the top 10. We need to be aggressive off the start here. Race pace around this track has often suited us a little bit more, but we're going to still try and gamble the one stop. Let's dive in then here for the Bahrain Grand Prix.
We're here again then at a circuit famous for its stunning visuals and thrilling battles for glory. Who will take the spotlight in the Bahrain Grand Prix today? We'll be racing around 3.36 miles of the magnificent Bahrain International Circuit today. Keep an eye out for drivers locking the front left down into the tricky braking zone of turn 10. Joining us today to oversee all the thrills and spills, it's Anthony Davidson. And great to see you. How are you feeling about the race today, and how are the circuit conditions from what you've seen?
Well, the surface looks clean enough, but I'm a little bit worried about the track temperature. It's pretty cool out there, which could give some teams difficulties when it comes to keeping their tyres in the right operating window. The cars out there that work their tyres hard and really put a lot of energy through them, they'll be the ones that are better off.
Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks for today's race. George Russell will begin today's event from pole position, and Valtteri Bottas will line up alongside. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Hamilton, Verstappen, Charles Leclerc and Kvyat, Mr. Monaco, Albon, Ricciardo and Carlos Sainz, Stroll, Gasly, Lando Norris and Perez, Ocon, King, Nobuharu Matsushita and Nick de Vries, Giovinazzi, Latifi, Raikkonen. They've taken a grid penalty, and Kevin Magnussen fills the last spot on the grid. And now it's time to head down to the track.
Now that we've got some points on the board, let's continue this form and aim for another top 10 finish.
So here we are then on the grid, ready for round 2 of the season from the Bahrain Grand Prix. I'm going to aim to try and make the one-stop strategy work here, the softs to the hards. It's certainly going to be interesting to see whether all the cars around us are going to be able to do that as well. The two-stop didn't work out for us in Australia, so hopefully it'll be the same sort of story here today. But yeah, really looking forward to the Bahrain Grand Prix. We need a better result, though, than last weekend, and if qualifying's anything to go by, we might be set to struggle just a little bit here today. But hopefully we can get a nice clean start, get through the first lap nice and tidy. If we're up a couple of spots, then we're up a couple of spots as well, and then it will just be a case of trying to play our own race and in it for the long haul. We're ready then for round 2 of the season from the Bahrain Grand Prix. The 5 lights are going to be coming on now. We need a good clean getaway in towards turn 1. It's 5 red lights, and it's the lights out, and away we go. Not off to a particularly brilliant start there. A lot of wheel spin as we head down in towards turn 1 as everyone just fans out in through the first corner. A bit of contact with both the AlphaTauri and the Ferrari there as we head through the first corner, but we have held on to track position there. No front wing damage as well somehow from that. Not too sure I've managed that as Albon tries to get a good run up in towards turn 4. We haven't gained anything off the start, but we also haven't lost, so that's alright for us. As you can already see, Bottas and our teammate George Russell trying to make a breakaway off the start of the Grand Prix. George really does go for the Sebastian Vettel early 2010 strats in this series. Obviously, I'm sure Seb is sat at home watching the Grand Prix, probably enjoying seeing his strategies still working out well for him, or working out well for other drivers at the moment. But yeah, we have survived the start then of the Bahrain Grand Prix, but no progress made up. We need to really be getting past the AlphaTauri and the Ferraris if possible here. Mercedes seem to be pretty much on the money this weekend with ourselves though, as Danny Kvyat getting a little bit loose there, clipping that curb. Definitely not one you can clip as a human. The AI though seem to be able to get away with it just a little bit more here as we head down in towards the final couple of corners of lap 1. Jeff just saying, yeah, start not brilliant, but not bad either. As Kvyat once again getting a little bit loose and lively through the final corner. George Russell, a 128 at the end of the first lap, but we should be able to slipstream past Danny Kvyat. He just jinks out a little bit there in front of us as we head down in towards turn 1, but we do hold on, and we move ourselves up into 6th. You can already see on the minimap Charles Leclerc is, Charles Leclerc, our teammate George Russell even, that's a bit awkward, making a big getaway by the end of lap 2, a 27.1. What are we going to be able to set in comparison? A 27.6 purple final sector. We are closing in on Charles Leclerc now as we head in towards the first corner. Going to go for a big boy send, a bit of a lock-up on the front inside wheel, but we make the move work. Very aggressive. Well, up into 5th. End of lap 3, we're taking some big time out of Max Verstappen as we head down in towards the first corner. The race pace of the 212 Motorsport car still looking rather strong as we go up the inside, so we're up 3 places in 3 laps with moves in towards turn 1. Yeah, we're just trying to settle down into rhythm, but also not overuse the tyres. Obviously, like I said, we are in this for the long game as well. We need to be careful. Obviously, trying to get these tyres as far as possible should make the rest of our race a little bit easier. Oh, we got yellow flags out towards the rear of the field, who is already struggling in this Grand Prix. And are we going to see a safety car because of it? It's one of the Alfa Romeos going slowly. I think that might be Jordan King, but I don't know for sure here. It is Matsushita, as we get a safety car. That's not really worked out well for us. A lot of them are front, but a lot of cars further down the order are going to get a free pit stop out of it. Coming to the end of lap 6, I'm really not too sure what strategy we should go with in this race. I don't know if we should just stay out and focus on keeping our one stop alive, or do we just pit now and try and see if we can get the hards to the end? I don't think they'll go 23 laps. Hamilton is in, George is in, Bottas is in. We're going to try the alternate strat here then. Stay out, make it to sort of lap 12. I'm intrigued to know what tyres are all going to go on to, as it looks like Danny Kvyat's had the same idea as me. We're just going to take track position. Bottas is pit onto mediums. So we are still effectively on a similar strategy to these guys, but they're going to be able to get around us fairly quickly, I would have thought. We're all going to have to pit again, but now we've got track position. And we have actually got a few car buffer of the likes of Norris and Stroll, as well as Albon and Kvyat here, so this isn't over just yet. Coming to the end of lap 8 then, we've got 21 to go here from the Bahrain Grand Prix. We're going to need a good restart. We basically just need to try and take off out of this final corner. Let's just go for it about now then. It's lights out, it's green flag racing. Once again here from Bahrain, we should have the legs over Danny Kvyat anyway, and you can see we have tried to check out off that restart, so a good little start for ourselves. The team want us in the end of this one. We're going to try and take it at least sort of 2-3 laps longer, depending on how well these softs hold up. Obviously they are now cold, so we might struggle a bit more relative to the guys around us. You can see getting a bit of a wobble through the first couple of corners, but yeah, we just need to try and get these last few laps under our belt nice, clean and tidily. And then obviously focus on getting out onto the hards into some clear air as well here. A good little restart though for ourselves. Let's see what we can do. There we go, George Russell, I can just see moving himself up into P5 of the Grand Prix, but a 1 3/4 second margin over. Oh, they actually dive it in, so I'm not too sure why Kvyat and Albon have dived it in when they have, but that's going to make my teammate George Russell's life just a little bit easier here. So I don't know yet whether they're trying to go for the one stop as well, but we've now got a 3.5 second advantage over Lando Norris, who's now into P2. We're going to try and make it to about maybe lap 11, lap 12 before we pit. I think we're about to see George Russell fly past Lando Norris and back up into P2 of this Grand Prix. It looks rather close in towards the first corner, but I think, yeah, George now back up into second place then of this Grand Prix. He's about 4.5 seconds behind us, so he hasn't lost out too much time behind Lando. Obviously been carried along a little bit with the straight line speed, the slipstream, through the first couple of corners. But yeah, now we just need to try and hold on to as much of this gap as we can, because obviously it's all going to be a bit sort of flipped over towards the end of the race. And of lap 12, yeah, these tyres are really starting to go off on this lap. We're definitely going to have to pit now. George has taken a good sort of 7-8 tenths out of us already on this lap alone. We finally now get the warning for the tyres as well here. It's in through the penultimate corner of the lap. Try and roll on the power as easily as possible. The gap now just dipping under 3 seconds there for a brief second. But in through the final corner, obviously we need to make sure we get it slowed down into the pits nice and tidy. We're going to use the last of our ERS, try and save a bit of fuel as well. Not that we really need to worry around here. Get it slowed down into the pits. So George is going to fly back past us into the lead of the Grand Prix. I think the medium runners are going to try and go a couple of laps longer, so hopefully we shouldn't get held up by too many of them. As long as we stay out ahead of the Alpha Tauri, we should be okay. 2 second stop. Thank you very much, team. We will probably be out, I think, just behind the Williams, which is not too ideal, but not too bad as well. Kvyat, though, looks to still be on the 2-stop strategy here. We're now trying to get to the end. 16 laps on a set of hards is fairly sort of standard stuff, but it's more a case of where we're going to be in comparison to our teammate. First up, though, Latifi. Look at the extra grip we've got through there over Nicholas Latifi. I know some of that's helped by the tyres, but he locks up in through the hairpin. We go for a bit of a ragged attempt on a move, but it is a move and there was no contact. So we will call that a success at the end of the day. Pierre Gasly really struggling this weekend. He struggled throughout most of last season as well, unlike his teammate Danny Kvyat, who actually had a good string of results towards the end of the season. But yeah, Gasly still stuck with the Williams at this stage of the race. We need to try and get around these guys. There you go, you can see Gasly now trying to have a bit of a look at the inside of Antonio Giovinazzi. Hopefully they just slow each other a bit up through the final corner. Not as much as I was originally hoping for, as even more cars into the pits, which works out nicely for us then. So we should be back up at least close to the points. Up into 12th place, there is Lando Norris, who was just behind us earlier on. So yeah, we're getting a little bit of clear traffic in that sense. But next up then, Magnussen and Charles Leclerc here, both still on the mediums. We really are on a different strat to everyone else in this Grand Prix, but it's probably only going to be the last few laps where we find out if it's worked or not. All over the back of K-Mag here. Hopefully we can try and get a run in towards Sector 3. There we go. He tries to go aggressively defensive on us, but we're never really going to worry too much about that from the Haasman now. Up into 11th. I think we're going to see even more cars into the pits as well. End of the lap. There we go. You can see a load more darting off to the right-hand side. So we will be now back up into the points. Still setting fairly consistent laps, but we're up into 7th again. Just now crossing over the halfway stage of this race. We've slowly brought ourselves back up to the rear of Charles Leclerc. Obviously, these guys all do have slightly older rubber than ourselves, but they are trying to go to about lap 20 in this race. We do need to try and get round them still on the road. Charles Leclerc a bit defensive, but not really for much worth as we head down in towards turn 1 around the outside of the Ferrari. One lap further on, actually, Ricciardo dives into the pits and will take as much DRS as we can from the Red Bull, but we're back up into P4 then of this race. Verstappen and Bottas just a few car lengths up the road as well, about 3 seconds the pair of them here, but obviously all these guys have still got to make another pit stop in this Grand Prix. I've got no idea how George Russell has built himself up such a lead over everyone else at the moment, but hopefully we will still be in a battle with him towards the end. Pace has felt quite good so far on these hards, but still a long way to go. There we go, Verstappen and Bottas into the pits as well. So I don't think it's going to be long before George Russell dives it in. He's about 18 seconds up the road as we set our new personal best of the Grand Prix. If we can get that down another few seconds before he pits in, then I'll probably feel quite good. There we go, George now into the pits. The gap's basically stayed the same so far this lap, so it doesn't fill me with too much confidence. But Charles Leclerc, who had a fantastic race out here last season, still out on the road at the moment, trying to go a little bit longer in this Grand Prix. Where are we going to come out in comparison to our teammate George Russell? We are going to be ahead of him, but with 11 laps to go of this Grand Prix, what is the gap that we're going to have to try and defend from our teammate? It's going to be about 4 seconds. Not a particularly brilliant gap for us, but still possible. Oh, we got yellow flags out. Someone's struggling. It's one of the Ferraris. I think that might be Charles Leclerc, who has fallen to the wayside here. Please don't be another safety car. It's Verstappen. And we've got a virtual safety car. I was going to say, I'd say no safety car. That might not have worked out too badly for us. But VSC out with just 10 laps to go. George Russell, new fastest lap of the Grand Prix with just 8 to go here. I think we're setting ourselves up for a duel in the desert finish between teammates, as Bahrain has so famously seen in the past. We're just trying to hold him off for as long as possible, keep him out of the DRS zone, so we don't have to attack, or sorry, defend even, I should say, as much as we need to. Lando Norris, still up in P3 at the moment, a couple of seconds ahead of Bottas. I'm intrigued to know how long he's going to be able to hold on to that. But yeah, just watching our mirrors more and more lap after lap, as that gap now dips under 3 seconds. George, another fastest lap into the 26s in the dying stages. The team just warning us as well that George, yeah, is looking feisty just behind us. He took about another half a second out of us on that last lap. So we got 7 to go. He's 2.5 behind us. So basic maths would say he's going to be about a second ahead of us, but that seems almost Amazon Web Services kind of analytics there. 5 laps to go then of this Grand Prix, and I'm very much getting sort of Bahrain 2014 vibes from this. Teammate battle at the front after we've pulled out a second a lap over the rest of the field since the safety car. More than that, in fact, actually. In the, what, 15, 16 laps since the safety car came in. But George, we're just trying to keep him above that 1 second margin for as long as possible here. We don't have much spare fuel, but we can't even get through the ERS still at the moment. 4 laps to go. George has just dipped himself under that 1 second margin as we actually run out of DRS on that lap as well here. Another PB from our teammate. That time around he only took about 3/10 out of us, so we're both getting quicker and quicker towards the end of this Grand Prix. But we need to hold on to this. We can't afford to let George obviously start winning back-to-back races and build up a big title margin in the early stages. We need this win to keep our championship on track. It's only round 2, but we're already worried about that kind of thing. Personal best there. George didn't really take any time out of us on that lap, as we were pretty much even with the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. I'd like to snag the bonus point if possible, but I don't really think it's going to be possible here, as George makes big gains through the first corner. But basically going to have to try and leave it in rich revs to the checkered flag and hope that he can't get a big enough slingshot out of one of the corners here. But we're just doing everything within our power. Less than 3 laps to go here from Sakir. Can we hold on? To go then here from Bahrain. I'm getting a little bit worried that George is just trying to sort of bottle everything up, gather everything together, and just go for one all-out attack on the final lap of this Grand Prix. The top-end speed of this car is so good, despite the DRS. We're both pretty much maxing out because we've got that much power from the Renault power units here. But through the first couple of corners, we just gain a couple of tenths there. That is absolutely critical. Coming towards the final lap then of this Grand Prix. This was what I was worried about. George Russell just sort of saving everything up, ready for one final last attempt in this Grand Prix. 1 more to go here from Sakir. We get a good drive out of the final corner. We should therefore have a little bit of safety down in towards turn 1 using all the ERS that we have available to us as we head in towards the first corner. The gap just dips below 0.3 of a second. As we head in towards turn 1, we need to be hitting all of our apexes. We need to be getting good traction on the exits of the corners here. The team have already come over the radio warning us that the tyres are certainly past their best at this stage of the day. Valtteri Bottas, new fast lap of the Grand Prix, 0.04 of a second quicker than the lap I'd done, which wasn't even purple when I set it. So George, probably going to be a little bit gutted there. He gets very close to us through the S's, but can't quite make the move work as we head out through the hairpin for the final time in this Grand Prix. Will George be able to get any other opportunity on us as we just snag the brakes? We get caught over the curbs there. George able to have a look up the inside. We need to get the power down on the exit. It's going to be a drag race as we head down the back straightaway here. We're going to have to go defensive on our teammate George Russell. He's going to have a look round the outside. We can't afford to make any contact between the pair of us here, but we just hold on for now, side by side on the final lap of this Bahrain Grand Prix. We just get caught on the curbs again. George once again tries to have a bit of a sneak up the inside there, but once again he can't quite get on the power early enough on the exit. We need to save a little bit of ERS to get ourselves the run out of the final corner. Look at that, George He's centred again on us. And we get a huge wobble there. There's contact between the pair of us through the final corner. And I'm not happy with George Russell in that situation. He's P2 at the end of the day. But that kicked off in the final corner of the Grand Prix. What was that from George?
A fantastic team effort then to secure victory here in the desert. Ant, talk to me. What do you think it was that sealed the win for them?
It was a question of right place, right time today. We were looking at an entirely different race before the safety car came out, but they were able to take full advantage after the field had been bunched up.
Well, I'm thoroughly exhausted after the excitement of that race, but I'm sure it's nothing compared to our drivers here. They've worked hard to make it up there, and it's great to see them make their way out onto the podium. So let's review the updated driver standings. That's a positive result for George Russell, who further solidifies his position at the top of the standings. So, Anthony Davidson, who would you rank as your driver of the day?
Difficult call, but I'd like to say Esteban Ocon. He's just so gifted at getting the most out of his tyres, and he showed that today.
It's time to see how things are shaping up in the Constructors' Championship. The current leaders continue to extend their lead at the top. There was also a strong showing from the Mercedes team today as they make their way up the standings. Well, Ant, an end to another fantastic weekend of racing. Thanks to everyone who joined us, and we'll see you for the next one.
Well, what can we say then about that final lap of the Bahrain Grand Prix? George Russell, he stuck his nose in through the final corner. I feel like he tagged me just a little bit, and that put us into the gravel. We were very, very lucky, actually. We didn't end up hitting the wall there at the end of the race. But yeah, not too happy with our teammate George Russell. We'll have to have a look at that on the replays after the Grand Prix weekend as well there. But looking on the positive side, it's another 1-2 for the team, our first of the season there. We missed out on maximum points by 14 thousandths of a second there. I don't think I've ever seen the top three having that tightly bunched fastest laps there at the end of a Grand Prix there. Bottas comes through for P3 ahead of Lando Norris, Esteban Ocon and Carlos Sainz there. Carlos Sainz still having a fantastic day out, making the two-stop strategy work there when all is said and done. But yeah, Lando and Ocon able to utilise their one-stop to the best of its effect there. Lance Stroll comes through for 7th ahead of Ricciardo, Charles Leclerc in 9th, and then Kimi Räikkönen from the back row to finish inside the top 10 there. A fantastic job done by him there. But Hamilton misses out on points, still sat on 0 after the opening 2 rounds of the season. Jordan King has another good day out, up in P12 ahead of Sergio Perez, Gasly and Danny Kvyat there. Albon down in 16th place in the end, finishing just ahead of Magnussen, who started from the back there. Nick de Vries, Antonio Giovinazzi, Latifi rounding out the finishes there, with Max Verstappen and Matsushita both not making it to the checkered flag. Means in the Drivers' World Championship, George Russell, the 50 points at the top of the standings. Obviously not the full 50, be the full 52 now, but still yet to get a fastest lap bonus point for himself this season. Ocon up into P3 there, as well, still holding on to P3 even, I should say, on 28 after 2 brilliant results to kick off his season just behind ourselves. Bottas up into 4th ahead of Alexander Albon. Sainz moves himself up into 6th ahead of Lando Norris. Charles Leclerc, 8th. Danny Kvyat 9th ahead of Daniel Ricciardo, rounding out the top 10 there, with Stroll, Jordan King, Raikkonen and Verstappen both with points on the board there. Hamilton down in 15th place, only ahead of Matsushita, Perez, Gasly, Gio, both Hasses, and Nicholas Latifi rounding out the points finishes there. But we have got a 52-point lead after the opening 2 races of the season there. All 3 Renault-powered cars make up, or all 3 Renault-powered teams, sorry, I should say, make up the top 3 after the opening 2 races of the season there. Red Bull in 4th, Mercedes in 5th, Ferrari, AlphaTauri, Racing Point, and Alfa Romeo up in 9th place. They're ahead of Williams and Haas, who are both still yet to score. But yeah, we basically got 3 times the points of anyone else after the opening 2 rounds of the season. I don't think we've quite got more points than everyone else put together, but we're certainly not far away from that either there at the end of the day. But yeah, an interesting end to round 2 of the season. Are we starting to see a bit of a tear in the team between myself and George Russell? Only time will tell. We will be back tomorrow, ready for round 3, where we head to Hanoi for the Vietnamese Grand Prix. You guys do not want to miss it. A big thank you to our channel members for making these videos possible. You can be featured in these end clips as well as granted access to some other exclusive perks for just £1 a month by clicking the join button below.